The definition of Zionism has changed over time, but it's always been a very diverse movement. We see a bunch about Zionism in the news, and recently, especially protests against the Israel-Gaza war. But what is it? I think any simple answer is in part going to be a wrong answer, but I'm going to try and summarize it in 4 minutes. Zionism started as a movement in the late 1800s for 2 main reasons: dealing with a rise in anti-Semitism in Europe, where most of the Jews of the world lived, and preserving and promoting Jewish cultural and national identity distinct from religious identity or Judaism. Anti-Semitism against Jews on a racial and political basis was rising at the time alongside the religious prejudice against Jews that had existed historically. And many Jews, like Leon Pinsker, with his foundational Zionist text, Autoemancipation, believed that the only way Jews could escape anti-Semitism would be to have their own country somewhere. At the same time, this anti-Semitism created pressure for Jews to try to shed their distinctions, like religious practice and language, as a way of trying to avoid anti-Semitism. And so Jewish authors like Nathan Birnbaum, who coined the term Zionism, wanted to create an organized literary movement in part to prevent Jews from losing that cultural identity, especially by doing things like modernizing the Hebrew language in order to accommodate contemporary journalism, education, and literature. Some groups, like the Basle here, promoted Jewish agricultural development, especially in the land of the ancient Hebrews and Jews, the land of Israel. At the end of the 19th century, this territory was part of the Ottoman Empire. In 1896, the father of Zionism, Theodor Herzl, took a more diplomatic, financial, and colonial approach to what had been a more literary and piecemeal approach toward Zionism, and he established the Zionist organization. Not long after this organization was established, it was clear that Zionists had a huge range of priorities, goals, and strategies, and different factions within the Zionist organization formed to advance these different goals. Zionism included different branches based on things like attitudes towards how the economy of a Jewish nation should run, what kind of government structure it should have, what sort of educational system, the role that religion or Judaism should play in the nation, and the relationship with the Arabs of Palestine. Despite the huge differences among Zionists, Zionism could most broadly be defined as the belief that the Jews are a nation and as such should have political and/or cultural autonomy or self-rule in some or all of the ancient land of Israel. When the State of Israel was established in 1948, the goal of the Zionist movement was in a lot of ways reached, and so the definition of Zionism continued to change. Establishing a state was no longer a necessary goal, but deciding what aspects of Zionism would be part of the government and society of the state continued and still continues. I think the most accurate current definition of Zionism is therefore the belief that the state of Israel is and should be the nation state of the Jewish people. And in 2018, Israel made this official in one of its basic laws, which has a near constitutional status. A nation state is a state governed by and for a particular national group, and usually specifically a particular ethnic or linguistic or religious national group. For many Zionists, preserving Israel as a specifically Jewish state, rather than what has been termed by some political parties in Israel as a state for all its citizens, is what it means to be Zionist. And again, just like with pretty much any ideology anywhere, there's a lot of disagreement and diversity about what this actually means in practice. So when you see stuff about Zionism, just know that it is an ideology that has been in flux since its 19th century beginnings, and that the establishment of Israel in the mid-20th century was a big turning point for what Zionism has meant politically in Israel and Palestine. It has not been the same thing over time, and it will not and does not have to be the same thing in changing times either. So just be careful when you see it or write it on a poster.